So you have private sector, you have government service, now you've got private nonprofit work.
Yeah.
Why did you end up there?
You know, one of the things, there's a lot of things that were very exciting to me about the opportunity to go to Robinhood, and particularly in this moment. You know, Robinhood has a 30-year history of being involved inside this work. Robinhood, you know, started in 1988 when we had a real financial downturn, and the founders of Robinhood got together and were saying, you know, this is going to be, you know, this will be a hard year in the financial markets. But do you know who it's really going to be hard on? People who are already living in poverty. It's going to be a really hard year for them, because every year is a really hard year for them. And so they created this foundation, initially a small foundation called Robinhood, where it was $50,000 to going to 3 different organizations. Now Robinhood has over that 30-year period, you know, has now given away and granted around $3 billion. We have about 250 different organizations that we support every single year. Every single year we'll grant out over $100 million to the best, the most data-driven organizations and the most effective organizations in this space.
You are supplied with funds by a lot of very wealthy individuals, very successful type A's, if I could call it that way.
Yes.
A lot of those people think they know what people need in the South Bronx, for example. How does that work for you?
You know, we have people within, you know, our orbit and within our atmosphere who are bankers and people who are school teachers. We have people who are consultants and people who are social workers, but all people with a singular goal. And that singular goal is, how do we erase poverty in the lives of as many people as humanly possible? And that's why the data matters, right? Because one thing we're very clear about in this work is we don't do emotive splurges. And data will always lead us to where we need to go. And the data led us to an incredibly important point that now has become a bit of a North Star for our organization. And that's the fact that it's not just enough to fight poverty. Poverty has this magnetic, this stickiness, this incredibly dangerous stickiness to it, where it's singular events, singular sometimes decisions, and singular sometimes happenstance things that happen to people that will push them right back into poverty. Someone misses a train. Someone loses a job. A child gets sick. Someone gets docked hours. Now, next thing you know, they find themselves right back into a situation of poverty. And so as an organization, we then made a strategic decision on our evolution that our sole goal and focus has got to be, how are we lifting New York City households out of poverty measurably and sustainably.
Part of the reason poverty is so powerful is because it is so multifaceted.
When we look at people who are living in poverty and communities that are deep, almost generational poverty, what we have in those situations have been structural breakdowns in every facet. The only way to deal with a structural breakdown is a structural buildup. Right? So when people say, is it education? Is it housing? Is it mental health? Is it criminal justice reform? The answer is yes. That's right. You got it. That's exactly what it is. Because for so many of the families and the people we're talking about, every system has broken. And so the way then we have to then think about this work is, how are we then fortifying not just the best organizations, but also really solidifying a sense of governmental and a sense of societal momentum around how are we making sure that every voice is heard, and how are we making sure that every opportunity is unveiled.